Welcome to the Phoenix Rising podcast. I am Ashley Drummond. We've got a lot to get into today, all with the direction of helping you change your life and create what you ultimately want. Believe it or not, I am redoing this podcast. I never redo podcasts, but I got about 10 minutes in and Bear was having a little bit of an allergy attack. So I had to pause this, take care of my fur child, and then I totally lost my flow and train of thought. So we're just starting all over. That's okay. It was a good practice round. So we're going to dive into some stuff today. I'm going to give you specific tools and steps on how to live with intention to change your life and create what you really want, which there's kind of two parts to this. You're getting like a bonus here. You're getting like a 2-for-1 type podcast here because I almost did 2 podcast episodes on talking about what you really want. And I mean, if you go back to one of the first like 10 episodes, there is a whole podcast on getting clear on what you want, but it wasn't so much that as much as, do you actually want what you say you want? And we're going to pinpoint what that means and how to decipher between what you want, what you say you want, and what you're actively creating. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a very honest, no BS, just super direct conversation, because the way that we create change is by being direct, clear, and assertive in our lives. And we're going to get right into it. Real quick, if you would like to work with me as your mindset coach in creating the body and the life that you want, getting clear on your nutrition to help you hit your goals, getting really clear on your workouts to help you build lean muscle, strengthen your mindset, and boost your fat loss. And really just to make yourself feel like a badass, head on over to ashleydrummonds.com. There's a link that says work with me. Click on that link, fill out that form in as much honest detail as possible. And then you'll be taken to a page to schedule a call with me where we're just going to talk all about it and get super deep. But that's the way to do that. I always love getting the forms and filling things out because usually you can tell how open somebody is to coaching or not coaching based on how they fill out that form. And a lot of times it's almost as if people are trying to impress me with the form when and I'll respond, I'll email them directly. I'm like, hey, I need you to refill out this form and I need you to just be super honest. Like, I can't help you if you pretend like you've already got it all figured out. You wouldn't be coming to me if you had it all figured out. So if this is going to work, I need you to be straightforward and honest with me, and I will always be straightforward and honest with you because that is how change happens. So if that's what you're looking for fitness, nutrition, and mindset coaching with me, the link is in the description. Head to ashleydrummonds.com and you will see exactly how you can do that. So I heard a really great quote that I absolutely loved and it is so perfect for what we're going to talk about today. And the quote is that one of the most glorious powers we humans have is that we can radically change our realities simply by making the choice to adjust our focus. I love this so much because it really is so true. Like, if you really take the time to sit and ponder and think about the fact that like we all live in the same world. However, in this same world, we all are living so many different realities based on our internal visions, ideas, belief system, thoughts, and desires that we project into the external world. So it's kind of like you can wake up in the morning and let's say it's raining outside. One person can wake up and look at this experience and the reality for them is, oh my God, what a great day. Let's light some candles. Let's read a book. Let's take this as an opportunity to refresh and recharge. Another person can wake up in that exact same reality and think, oh my God, what horrible weather. It's so gross and gray outside. Like, this is so depressing. Totally different realities, all based on what's going on internally and the focus that they have. So with that quote and the truth behind it, that you can literally change your reality and your entire life by making the choice to adjust your focus. That's the hardest part. It's not just about a choice of wanting to change. It's actively participating in changing what you focus on. And then what this episode is all about is living each day intentionally in alignment with that change. So I'm excited to talk about this because, man, this is like what so many people struggle with. I do want to give some shout outs. I have some shout outs for some clients, some wins that I want to acknowledge and give credit to. Obviously, I'm not going to say any names because everything's confidential, but they know who they are. And I'm super proud. And like, one of the things that makes me the happiest is when people are hitting goals and seeing progress in a sustainable and healthy way. Like, of course, I can make you lose weight by telling you to just eat 500 calories a day and only drinking greens and taking 1,000,000 B12 shots and B vitamins. But what's going to happen is every part of your blood work is going to show that your body's like starved and deprived. And then you're going to come back next week and totally cranky with hormonal imbalances and sleep issues and all kinds of stuff because it's not healthy. So it makes me so happy when all this stuff that we talk about and that I talk about like on coaching calls, you actually see real life proof of all of it happening. So a couple shout outs. I have one client who has lost 6 pounds and 2 inches off of her waist, and her blood work is all back in balance. And she sent me the email and she's like, hey, just FYI, I've lost 2 inches off my waist and 6 pounds. Blood work, everything looks back in balance. And I'm like overjoyed by it. And I'm sending this email back with all these exclamation marks. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. 2 inches. And not that I ever doubt it. It's just, I know that I know what I'm coaching works. But when it actually comes back as like hard evidence in blood work, in like measurements, in mindset, in overall health, that's when I get excited because now my clients see that it's actual proof and not just me sharing concepts and ideas. So shout out to her. I'm super excited about it. This is like such the kind of experience that I want clients to have, is to be able to sustainably lose fat, lose weight in a way that keeps your body functioning optimally. I almost said ultimately. Optimally. So I'm super excited about that one. Second shout out for a client that I have is, so I call these non-scale victories because some people that I work with don't have a significant amount of weight to lose. Their focus is more on building lean muscle, getting stronger in the gym, and overcoming some mental limitations and mental blocks. So this particular client has PR'd 2 of her lifts this week, gotten off an anti-anxiety medication, and has been consistently asserting herself in her friendships, her relationships, and setting hard boundaries that is leaving her feeling more confident, more self-assured, and feeling like she has some control back in her life. So shout out to that client. And then shout out for client number 3. This is a male. I am super excited about this. He is really, God, I'm so proud. Like, it's so interesting. Every client is different. Everybody needs different things. And this particular person, the main focus, obviously we're helping him build lean muscle and cleaning up his nutrition and balancing out his blood work and all those things. But the hardest part when we first started working together was the mindset. And I remember like the conversation we had having to work through the fear of vulnerability, not just being vulnerable with me about some of the areas he was struggling with, but the action items that would be necessary that he would have to do in his day-to-day life with his marriage, his day-to-day life with his friendships, of now that you're learning to be strong and be vulnerable with me and you see vulnerability as a strength and not as a weakness, now we have to actually put these into action in your everyday life, and you have to work on allowing yourself to be vulnerable in these situations. So basically, I'm like being very, very cautious of protecting the privacy of all clients. So I'm like, okay, let's not get too detailed. But anyways, so shout out to him because he had some conversations that were not easy with his spouse this week. And not only did him being vulnerable create a closer bond between them, but it set them up that they have specific plans in place to improve a lot of areas of their life together. Of now they're going to start working out together. They're going to start meal prepping together. They're going to start doing different mindset and meditation exercises together so that they can grow together. So I'm super excited about it. I know he's excited about it. And I know, like, I think the cool thing about being a coach is I know how hard a lot of this stuff is for clients, but one of the safety nets I always tell them is, look, I know it's super scary to be vulnerable. I know it's super hard it's easy for us to have this conversation, but for you to then get off this call and go apply these things to your life, you're going to have some serious fear and insecurities and anxieties come up with that. But the thing that you have is we're going to get on a call in another 6 days, 1 week away, and we're going to talk about this. So you're not going through it alone. That's the most important part is I know it's scary. I know there's a lot of things that everybody has to work through. I mean, whether they're working on their workouts, their nutrition, mindset, vulnerability, whatever, the best part is you have the comfort and security of like, okay, I could do this and I could try this and totally bomb. Like this could totally not work out the way that I want it to. And if it doesn't, it's okay because you and I are going to talk about it next week and you're not doing it alone. So I wanted to just take a few seconds to acknowledge those clients because they have been working so hard and I am so freaking proud. And yeah, just taking that time out to say, I appreciate clients that show up and do the work and follow through and are willing to be brave, to put in the effort that it takes to make the changes necessary in order to get what you want, which is a perfect segue into all of this that we're going to talk about. So before I tell you how to live with intention on what you actually want, I want to talk about you being really honest with yourself on if what you say you want is what you really want. And the reason I say this is because typically what can happen is we start to pick up on what other people project onto us that we want, when in reality, if we spent time with ourselves, we realize that that's actually not important to us. It's not a priority. And you can tell this simply by paying attention to what is it, and I don't mean like a literal New Year's resolution piece of paper. I'm talking about even mentally. What is it that keeps going from one New Year's resolution list to the next, and every year it keeps going on there, but zero action or progress has been made for that? That's usually an indicator that that's not, deep down, you don't really want that. If you really wanted it, you would be putting forth effort towards it. So I don't know who you're trying to get approval from or who you're trying to get to accept and like you, but clearly that's what somebody else wants for you and not for you, because the things that we truly want, they don't need New Year's resolutions. We show up when we're ready to do the work and make the change. We do what needs to be done, and it doesn't keep getting put on the next to-do list, the next to-do list, the next to-do list. So one of the action steps you can do for yourself is get crystal clear on what do you keep talking about and telling everybody. Okay, actually, I have this down here because I was going to give specific examples just in case you're having a little bit of a struggle. Like, I don't know what she's talking about. Like, I'm not that person. You probably are. We all are. So here's some specific examples. Number one of the most common things that I see. So a lot of people that I work with, naturally, I think just because I am an entrepreneur, I attract a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or they're leaders or they're high up in their company, VPs, executives, top sales, CEOs, all of that, because it's similar personalities and mindsets. So I attract a lot of people like this. However, I also work with people who are employees, who are stay-at-home moms, different areas of life. So one of the things that I see in the career field that is so common, and a lot of times I just like listen to it, but if you're, as you know, if you're a client, I'm very direct and honest, is people who have jobs or are employees tell me how bad they want to be their own boss and start their own business, except they don't actually do anything to create this. And this is the most interesting thing. And I mean, I've even got people in my direct life that I hear it all the time of like, I'm really unhappy with this job. It's not really my dream. My boss totally sucks. It's so much work. I'm spending 60 hours a week busting my ass for something that's not even mine. And I'll ask, like, what do you actually want? They're like, I want to be my own boss. I want to like have my own business. I want to be self-employed. And then you ask, okay, well, what are you doing to create that? Well, I mean, right now, like, I just need to save money and I need to, like, no, I want that. I do. I really do. But like, I'm trying to just like get some stability. This may or may not be true. It probably is true. But when it goes on for years, deep down, you got to ask yourself, is that what you really want? Or are you saying that's what you really want because you have some sort of idea from somebody else that that's what you should want? Or you really are pretty comfortable and you don't want to change, but you don't want to get disapproval or people to judge you with what you're doing. So instead you say these things all the time, almost as if like, actually, I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at. I don't really want to grow. I've got steady income. I have a lot of flexibility in my schedule. I kind of get to do what I want. I mean, yeah, my boss is a pain in the butt, but I'll just say this so people think that I'm growing. That happens a lot too. So in the career world, I see this all the time. And then vice versa. There's entrepreneurs who get in the place where like entrepreneurship becomes a challenge. We hit plateaus in business just like you hit plateaus in everything else in life. And you reach the point of like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I just want a job. I just want steady income. And we'll talk and we'll get clear. And it's like, it's interesting you say that, yet you continue to push and do everything you can to figure out how to stay self-employed. So in reality, you got to ask yourself, like, do you really want what you say that you want? If you do, hold yourself accountable and take action in creating it and stop talking about it. I can tell you right now, I don't know your family. I don't know your friends. But I know that they are tired if you are somebody who just talks and talks and talks and talks, but never actually takes action. You're like the boy who cried wolf. Like, oh yeah, they're talking about some other thing they want to do, but we all deep down know they're never actually going to do it because all they do is talk. You don't want to be that. You're better than that. So get clear, either make the decision of, all right, no, this is really what I want and I'm done talking about it. I am somebody who takes action and lives intentionally. So let me start taking action in creating what I want. Or just be honest with yourself that it's not what you want and let it go and stop talking about it and live your life intentionally with what you have. So there's that part. And another example of this, and like using myself as a personal example for years. I'm talking like, so I got in the fitness industry around 2009. And at the beginning, I've always known for a very long time I wanted to be a business owner and I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And when I first started out and I was personal training at a gym and like trying to get some career direction, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. When I would do my goals at the beginning of each year, I kept putting on there like, I'm going to own my own gym. I'm going to own my own gym. And this went on and on and on for years. And I would like sit there and I would get clear on my goals. I'm like, one day I'm going to open my own gym, all these things. And then eventually, maybe like 5 years in, I had a really, like, I was writing it out and I stopped halfway and I was like, I know myself. If I really want something, it happens fast because I am so hyper focused on putting it into action and making it happen. This has been going on my goal list for 5 solid years and I have not done a single thing to make it happen. So instead of just writing this down again, let me ask myself, is this actually what I want? You know what? No, because I don't want to deal with all that overhead and then you got to hire a bunch of employees and then it's super expensive to run and that creates more work and less freedom. And what I want is more freedom and less work. So we're just going to cross this off. And I remember I put a big line through it on my goal sheet. I'm like, I can accept that I don't really want this. Everybody else wants it for me. I don't actually want it because I am super aware of the amount of work that goes into that. And you go from thinking you're going to be your own boss to you've just created a very big job for yourself. So no, thank you. And now when people talk about it, they're like, you should open your own gym one day. I'm like, no, I don't want to. Thanks though. It's so much easier. So from the career perspective, what do you keep talking about that like has been going on for, I don't know, a year, 2 years, 3 years that you're not actually making any change for? Be honest. Is that really what you want? Is that something that you're just repeating that maybe your parents want for you or maybe your friends or your spouse wants for you, but you're like, honestly, I don't really care. I don't want this. Because what happens is when you get clear on that and you decide and you get rid of that and you can cross it off that list, you open up so much space, both literally and emotionally and energetically, that now you can get clear and create what you actually want. So that's the big part, is be somebody who doesn't just talk. I mean, one of the things that I pride myself in, and I don't mean like, not in a bad way, it's just something that I put serious conscious effort towards, is if I tell you, I don't care how small or big it is, if I tell you I am going to do something, I am going to do it. If I tell you I will be there at 1, I will be there at 12:55. If I tell you like, yeah, this weekend, let's grab coffee, we are going to grab coffee. I don't just talk about things, because if I'm going to say something, there is already thought and intention behind what I'm about to say to make sure I can follow through on it, or I'm not going to say it. So be somebody who wants to build the integrity and become known as, oh, that's, if they say they're going to do something, they're going to do something. Like, I 100% have seen it, and they don't mess around. Like, they live their life with direction and intention. I see this in the gym all the time, man. You go in the gym and it's just like everybody's wandering around aimlessly. And when I see this and I'm watching it, it's so symbolic of, like, I guarantee you, watching how people do their workouts, watching how anybody lives one area of their life is more than likely indicative of how they live another area of their life. So when I walk into a gym and everybody's kind of just like moseying around, they're kind of wandering around aimlessly, they don't really have a whole lot of direction. And I'm not talking about if you're brand new and you're still like trying to figure it out. I'm talking about people that have been there for a very long time and going every single day. When I see that, I'm like, you have no idea what you want in life. Not like the gym. And I've been repeating this so much because it's so true. The gym, your body, is just a surface level symbolism of other things in your life. When you are showing up with intention and with a goal, you are not sitting around just meandering around life. You're not just walking around like clueless of what you're even doing. You have clear direction. You know where you're going. You know what you want, and you show up and do it. And you can pay attention. Next time you go to the gym, just watch people. Who is there hyper-focused, knowing exactly what they're doing with their workout, but also what they're creating in their life? And then pay attention to everybody else who you can see. You're like, wow, that person is totally clueless. They have no idea like what they're even doing here. They probably got bored, had nothing else to do, so they came up to the gym and they're sitting around. Don't be that. Live your life with intention, which brings me to the next part of this. Qualify the people in your life. When you get clear on what you really want, and you've had, like we just talked about, you're having an honest conversation with yourself. And this goes to like, I gave you an example of business and career. Let's talk about relationships and kids and all that. If you don't want kids, stop talking about having kids. Stop trying to convince yourself because you're scared if you say no, what everybody else is going to think. Who cares? You are responsible for approving of yourself and loving yourself. You need to get in alignment with what you want, regardless of other people's response to it. Their response to what you say you want is going to be a reflection of their own projections and insecurities. So getting clear on what you want, if it's kids or no kids, I don't care. Make a decision. If it's marriage or no marriage, I don't care. Your personal choices do not directly affect my life. Make a decision. If it's employee or being your own boss, I don't care. Make a decision. If you want to lose weight and get in shape and build lean muscle and cut out alcohol, great, I can help you. If you don't and you are totally fine and happy with the life you've been living, great. Stop walking around though, trying to win acceptance, win approval by talking about stuff that everybody else wants, but you don't ultimately want. And now I'm kind of on I totally took a rabbit trail there and I realized that, but it's because I had a note that I wanted to pinpoint in that the thing that holds people back the most is the fear of not being loved and accepted. And I have an entrepreneur client who is building a super awesome business. But like the main thing is, and I think this is what it is usually people that are entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders, management, executives high up. The truth is that success takes energy. You cannot have success in life if you have no energy to give to that success. So in order to do that, we have to make sure you are giving yourself proper and sufficient energy to fuel your success. So this comes in play with your workouts, your nutrition, your mindsets, your meditation, and all that. So my point in all this is this entrepreneur is building super awesome business, super successful. And she was talking to me about how she noticed when she started doing business that a lot of her friendships started falling away. People who didn't understand that, hey, I can't just go out and have dinner and drinks because I actually have to take care of building this part of my business. Or on weekends, sometimes you're working on weekends because you got stuff to do. And that she started losing friends the more and more she built her business, which does suck, but is very common. That's actually just expected. But so when it came to getting clear on nutrition and fitness and mindset, the more you start to grow and change, it becomes very black and white of the people in your life who are not in alignment with that. So there was a little bit of a mental block of this fear of, I already know when I started building my business, I started losing a lot of friendships as I was building success and momentum. I'm scared if I make another change in my life, I'm going to end up totally alone. There's not going to be anybody left. I'm going to lose friends because everybody wants to do this, but I don't have anybody that wants to, hey, let's just go do a lift. Let's just go do a workout. Hey, do you want to go do a meditation or do you want to just go take a walk? Everybody's always wanting to do other things that aren't in alignment with that. And I told her, I said that this is common because the people you create in your current reality more than likely are not going to stay with you in the new reality or the new version of yourself that you're creating, because like attracts like. However, the biggest fear that holds people back is this fear of the illusion that you're going to end up alone or you're going to get disapproval. Once you give yourself the approval, the friendship, the love, and acceptance that you're scared to lose from other people, you become liberated, and now you're no longer holding yourself back. So this is huge. And I mean, the truth is you're not going to end up alone because people meet us where we are. So when things start shifting, I always like to tell people it's a really good thing because it's evidence that you are changing things going on in your mind and your internal world. So naturally your external world has to change. It's a little uncomfortable until the new people show up. So you may temporarily feel alone, but it's not going to last. You're going to have people that are now at the alignment that you're at who are going to meet you where you are. But so that's the biggest thing is when you're getting clear on what you want and you're creating your life based on what you truly want, you got to be willing to let go of everybody else disapproving, everybody else's opinion of you, whatever anybody else thinks, because that's going to hold you back. It's going to keep you in fear. So now that we kind of talked about part 2 instead of part 1 of basically how to live with intention to make change and create the life that you want. My point in all of that was explaining that I want you to get in the habit of I almost said nobody does this. I'm not going to say nobody does this. A lot of people do this. More people don't though. Freaking qualify the people you have in your life. This is mind blowing to me. What are your qualifications? You put more intention behind who you hire for a job than you do behind who you keep in your inner circle. Think about that. Somebody you're going to pay, and this is probably, no, this is true. This is true because this is something repetitive that keeps coming up for people. You put more emphasis, time, and intention in qualifying people when it comes to things like work, or let's say a babysitter or a dog sitter or an employee or a coworker who you're so intentional and focused on they need to be this, not this. This is what I expect. This is how they have to show up. All this stuff, but yet you don't put that same intention behind the people that you keep in your close, intimate circle. WTF. I don't know how else to say it, but when I see people do this, I'm like, why? You hold such a high standard in this one area of your life. You're not qualifying your friends. You're not qualifying the people that you talk to every single day. You're just accepting whoever shows up. You deserve better than that. Set the boundary, set the standard, because that's what you're going to get. If people are not meeting you where you feel that you deserve and they're taking advantage of you, or let's say I had this with a friend. We're no longer friends, not because of this, but this was something that was a pet peeve of mine. I had this friend years ago. She always was consistently 15 to 20 minutes late everywhere we went. 15, 20 minutes late with no heads up. If rarely am I late, but if I am late, I will call you, text you, be like, hey, I'm 5 minutes away. There was traffic, whatever. I'm really sorry. Like, I will keep you updated. But when people consistently show up late, especially with no heads up, that is a huge sign of disrespect for you and your time. But also, I mean, really, it's just not having respect for themselves and all that stuff. But anyways, so this went on for years. We had been friends for so long that I was like, man, I don't know if I say something. Do I just let this go and look at the bigger picture? So I said it in a very casual way one time. Because she showed up almost half an hour late to dinner with no text or anything. And I was like, hey, so I thought we were meeting at 5:30. And her response was something super like, oh yeah, I was running a little behind. I'm like, you couldn't call? You couldn't text and let me know? Like, I almost left because I just assumed you weren't showing up. And it caused this huge fight, not because I was doing anything wrong, but because somebody was being held accountable, and people don't like being held accountable. Long story short, this friendship eventually just dissolved for multiple reasons. We were heading down different paths, and I love her and I wish her so much happiness, and it's totally fine. But when it comes to your friendships, your relationship, any kind of important significance that somebody plays in your life, are you qualifying them at all, or are you just accepting them like stray cats and dogs off the street, not really caring? Because if your relationship is not what you want, if your friendships are not in alignment with where you want to go with your life, if anybody in your life is not in the place that you need and deserve, the only person who is responsible for that is you, friend, podcast listener. And that's a hard thing to swallow, because all we want to do is blame other people of like, God, I'm so tired of them being late. God, all they want to do is go out and drink. You know what? They actually don't know me at all. They don't put forth any effort in knowing me. Or you know what? I'm always the one reaching out to them. They never reach out to me. They never ask me about my life. I'm always showing up for them. Okay, I understand that is super frustrating. Vent, let it all out. So now my question, what are you going to do about it? Are you just going to talk to me about it? The person who can't do anything but be here to love and support you? Or are you going to be brave enough to have a conversation directly with that person, set the boundary and standard for what you deserve, and then hold that boundary and standard? That's the hard part. It's totally up to you to live your life and do things intentionally that's in alignment with what you want to create. If it's not, you cannot expect other people to do the work for you. Now, other people have a choice. When you qualify people, it's easy to do it with new people because you're like, nope, this is easy. I have no emotional connection to you whatsoever. So therefore, here's the standard. If you don't meet it, that's fine. Bye. Don't care. When it's people you're already involved with, it's a lot harder because there's loss at risk of if they don't do this, then what happens to our friendship? First of all, you have to be willing to let go in order to let in. It's hard and it sucks. And this is something, the more comfortable you get with change and letting and allowing, the more free you're going to feel. But when you show up differently and you ask for more, people have a choice of either to accept and respect that because they love and care about you and they cherish and value the relationship with you, or they're going to be like, you know what? I don't really care. Like, they can say this, but deep down, like, it's fine. They're not going to actually do anything. And I heard this one guy, I don't remember his name, but he was given relationship advice to somebody. Man, I wish I could remember. If it comes back to me, then I'll mention it. And it's so true. But basically it's saying like, when a child or a pet is not following the rules or is not respecting the boundaries, I actually had this with Bear the other night. He definitely was just completely ignoring me. And I was trying to keep him from running out in the road. So what happens? He gets consequences. I go grab him, I put him inside, and he is in quote unquote timeout because he doesn't listen. There's consequences, right? However, when it comes to people who are the same age as us, or at work, or in our family, or romantic relationships, we don't establish any consequences whatsoever. And I'm not talking about like a weird dynamic of like a parental role, but you do need to have things that let people know you're serious about your standards and the boundaries that you set. And if they continue to not respect those things, then there's consequences. It's that simple. Hey, if you keep showing up half an hour late, honestly, I'm just not even going to bother scheduling time. I'm going to let you schedule the time. That way I know you're going to show up when you say. And if you keep doing this, then I don't really know if we're even like on the same page of the value behind this friendship, because it doesn't really seem that important to you. And the thing that sucks is sometimes you realize like, oh, wow, no, it really was more important for me than it was for them. Okay, cool, great. But you got to qualify people. So to rehash, number one, ask yourself, what do you actually want? And be honest if it's not what you really want. Once you get clear on what you really want, number two, make sure you surround yourself with people who are in alignment with that. Surround yourself with people who motivate you, who inspire you, who cheer you on, who support the person that you want to become. And then qualify anybody new, but also have the hard, honest assessment with the people who are in your life if you need to make some changes for that. Number three, focus. So remember at the very beginning of this whole podcast, I shared with you the quote, one of the most glorious powers we have as humans is that we can radically change our reality simply by making the choice to adjust our focus. Choosing what you focus on will change what your current reality looks like. Like I said at the beginning with the rainy day, two different focuses. What are you focusing on? What you get or what you don't get? Are you focusing on what you want or what you don't want? Are you focusing on the kinds of people? Are you focusing on the reality that you want to create or the reality that you are in? By focusing, and the way you focus is through practice. By focusing on what it is that you are creating, everything starts to line up with you. How do you focus? This is a question I get asked all the time. How do you focus on what it is that you want? Repetition, repetition, repetition. I had a call this week with a client when I told her I wanted her to get super specific and super clear on what she was creating with her business. And she's probably like, oh, she's talking about me. And she's doing a really good job. And I said, okay, that's super awesome. I want you to get even more clear. How much money do you want to make? How much time do you want to be able to spend with your boyfriend? How do you spend your time in your business? Is your business online? Is it in person? What is it? And get super clear and write it out in detail. And then we focus on creating that. The way that we focus on creating that is you talk to me about it. You talk to other people about it. You keep talking about it and talking about it. And when you keep talking about it with intentional action behind it, you have shifted your focus, and before you know it, you have created it. So not just in the business world, but if you're doing this too, using fitness and nutrition as a concept, you're getting super clear on what it is you want to create with your health and fitness. And then if we're working together, we're talking about it every single week. So we're reinforcing what it is you're creating. But then throughout your day-to-day life, become obsessed with what you are doing, because right now you are obsessed with everything in your reality as it is. And there's people who are obsessed with every negative thing going on, people who are obsessed with COVID, people who are obsessed with like the economy, people who are obsessed with all the things that are going wrong in their life. Become obsessed with everything that you want to create. So with your health and fitness, you're talking about everybody about like, oh man, I'm super excited because my blood work is super balanced and came back clean. Or, man, I just PR'd my lift. I worked out 5 days this week and it was super solid and strong. And I meditated every single day for 10 to 15 weeks. I feel really good. I've been sleeping 8 to 9 hours a night. I cut out alcohol. I've cut out sugar. I met this new awesome friend that's also in alignment. Now we're doing this together. The more you talk about it with the intentional action behind it, creates more focus, and everything else will start to fade out of your vision. So all the people that weren't showing up for you, all the things that weren't in alignment, all the areas that were driving you nuts, no longer matter because you are so focused on the direction that you're headed. You don't even have time to think about all that. You don't even have the mental space, which leads me to the next part. Meditation. So we've talked about 3 things. We've talked about being honest and getting clear on what you actually want and not just saying things, being somebody who not just talks about it, but takes action. Number 2, we talked about qualifying. I almost forgot. Number 2, we talked about qualifying the people in your life who are in alignment with what you want, being honest again and setting those hard boundaries while holding yourself accountable that that's the standard that you want met. Number 3, we talked about focus, repetition, consistent intentional action. Focus is how you create this. And the last thing we're going to talk about is nothing new you haven't heard me talk about is meditation. Meditation, meditation, meditation. There is there's a Zen proverb that says, sit in silence and meditate for 20 minutes a day. Unless you're super busy, then sit in silence for an hour. And the point behind this is because what happens when we're trying to create something that we want, we tend to get it backwards. We immediately take on all the work, all the action, and we put more externally. We're like, all right, now we got to get busier because now we have to do everything. And we forget that everything is created from within. Some people call this prayer. That's totally fine. I call it meditation. Some people call it just focus and concentration. I don't really care what you call it as long as you do it. Because what it does when you sit in silence, 20 minutes a day, sit in your car. I don't care where you sit. Sit in silence for 20 minutes a day because what it does is it connects you to you. You're checking in with yourself. It connects you to a bigger energy that is in charge of everything. It's building a relationship with yourself and this bigger energy that exists when you sit in silence. And what's going on in your mind and intuition is everything that you are consistently creating. It's almost as if you're carrying on this conversation with God, with the universe of, hey, this is what I'm working on creating in my career. This is what I'm working on in my health and fitness. This is what I'm working on in my friendships and relationships. Here's the specifics of what I am looking for. I need your help to bring it all into my life. Bring in the people, the experiences, and the opportunities that are in alignment with this. And proof of this, that you're already doing this, it's just now you can do it with intention, is when you have a thought about somebody who you haven't thought of in a long time, and then all of a sudden, an hour later, you have a Facebook message or Instagram message, or they text you. They're like, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. How are you doing? You're doing that already. Or you're talking to your friend one night about how, man, I really want to get healthy and clean up my nutrition. The next day, you're like, hey, I listened to this podcast episode with this girl named Ashley. All of a sudden, everything to help you do what you say you want to do starts showing up. You attract the right coach. You attract the right friends. You attract the right opportunities. Meditation helps you do it from a way that you first connect and align with yourself. You get silent, you shut off all the noise, you get crystal clear on what is it I actually want. Let me get specific. Now that I know that all I need to do is live intentionally with focus on creating this, I also know that the entire universe, or again, you can call this God, the entire universe conspires to bring it to me. So you can relax. Creating what you want doesn't mean going out there and getting busier and now exhausting yourself. All it means is shifting the focus. It's the same amount of energy that you're using now. It's just the outcome is you get better results. You get what you actually want. You have a life that reflects you. So to kind of wrap all this up, ask yourself, am I living all areas of my life with intention and action? Does what I say that I want align with my actions? Do my words align with my actions? That's probably the biggest problem most people have. Their actions and their words are out of alignment. I always tell women that, well, guys too, actually, in dating. They're like, but he says this and he says that, or she says this and she says that. I'm like, if this person didn't speak a word to you, what do their actions say to you? And like, oh, well, actually, I'm like, yeah, I know it sucks. I know most people talk, very little people do. Be somebody who becomes known that your actions are louder than the words that you say. Hold yourself to that standard and that high integrity. Qualify the people that are in your life. You deserve people who are in alignment, who respect what you say that you need and want, and then they meet you there because they value you. If they don't, well, then it's a good thing you set those boundaries and you cleared that space for the people who do. So that's what today's podcast was all about. I really wanted to get clear and just talk about this because so many people, especially right now, first off, I know I gave shout outs to my clients. I love every single one of my clients because they show up. I am so proud of them because they show up every single week doing the work. They do the workouts, they log their nutrition, they do their meditation and their mindsets and their journaling, they do their affirmations, they set out their goals. And when we get on our calls are very intentional. All right, let's talk about the last week. Did you do this? Did you not do this? So I love my clients. They are amazing. And I'm super selective all the time because if you don't show up and take action and follow through, then it doesn't work for us to work together. Repetition and practice, though, is the key to any real lasting change. You can't work out one time and think you're going to build strength. And we talked about this about 10 days ago on the last podcast about your mindset being a muscle. Anytime you make change, it's going to be hard to implement change at first because you have to develop the consistency and the habits that are in alignment with that. But this is why the focus helps with that tremendously, because anytime you take away something, you have to put something in its place. Otherwise, all you feel is the gap of it. So if you get rid of alcohol, replace it with something else. Replace it with a mocktail. Replace it with, I don't know, a dessert. Replace it with something else that makes you happy. You're just swapping it out. This way you don't feel the gap. And I'm not saying to do this in an unhealthy way. I don't mean if you get out of a relationship, replace that relationship with somebody new. You replace the energy and the time. So keep that in mind. You have to let go to let in what you actually want. And then you have to put in the consistency and the practice. And before you know it, and sometimes it happens really fast. Sometimes like 2 to 3 months goes by and you're like, wow, I feel like a totally different person. It feels like it's been years. It's like, well, yeah, because you're showing up every single day, building these new habits and practice. So last point, I know I've said this a couple times. We're going to wrap this up. Last point, this is a question that comes up a lot is like, so then what do you do with like bad days? What do you do with like, not negative? There isn't really any positive or negative. What do you do with the heavy emotions? What do you do with the days that you're stuck in fear, in doubt? What about the days you fall off track? You don't ignore these things. You are a human being meant to feel every single emotion that exists. You don't live in denial. You don't pretend like there's not fear. You don't pretend like there's not doubt. You don't pretend like when you're like, all right, I'm setting these awesome new boundaries, and then you do this with a family member or a friend or whoever, and they don't meet that. And now you're like, okay, so what do I do? Like, if this felt really good at first, what do I do now with the pain and the emotions behind losing this person? You acknowledge and you feel all of it. This isn't about like some self-help only being positive all the time. You feel it, you process it, but then you shift your focus to stay focused on what it is that you really want and what you're creating. And that is going to move you forward. The way people go backwards and they get stuck and they hold themselves back is they think that as they make change, there is no heaviness or any kind of other feeling, that they're not going to hit roadblocks or emotional blocks or mental blocks in the process. You absolutely will, and you will feel all those things, and you need to feel all those things and have a day that you totally cry about it or feel lost about it or exhausted and you're questioning everything. Have all of that. Let it run through your body. And then you get back up and you're like, you know what though? I'm going to get back to it because I know what I want to create. I know what I want to focus on, and I know the direction that I'm headed. And you just keep focusing on what you're creating. That is how we move forward. So I never want anybody to think like with all of this, with every podcast I've done, every person that I've coached, everything that I talk about, it is absolutely not trying to pretend like you don't have hard times and rough spots and bad days. It's about learning to feel those things and then pick yourself up and move forward from them. It's about having the setbacks and then continually disciplining your mind and your focus that even though it's a setback, you're still moving forward and moving in the direction that you want. We're not going to stay there. Where you are right now is not where you're headed, but you need to be honest with where you are now and what you're doing in order to make new habits and say new things to create what you actually want. All right. So on that note, we are done. This was awesome. I love it. I hope that you got a ton of nuggets out of this. I got a couple reviews. People were like, I feel like I listen to your podcast and then I have to like go take a walk to digest and process all of it because it's just like a total call out of all these things that I need to do. And it makes me happy to hear that. I'm like, good. That means that we're hitting something that needs to be addressed. And now you have a choice on how you want to move forward. So that makes me happy. And I appreciate when you guys tell me that. As I said at the beginning, if you want to work with me as your nutrition, fitness, and mindset coach, link is in the description. Head to ashleydrummons.com and I would be more than happy to talk to you about it to see if we are a good fit. In the meantime, go take pen and paper, get really clear on what's working and what's not working in your life and what you really want, and then become somebody who lives every day with intention in creating that. Until next time, I will see you in the next episode, and thank you so much for listening.